The Star Wars sequels, the brand new Indiana Jones movie, the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, the Jurassic World trilogy, Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends, and now The Exorcist Believer. Hollywood, can we please stop ruining old franchises, please?
You can't keep getting away with it!
So I just saw The Exorcist Believer, which is a brand new Exorcist requel movie. This movie that's a sequel to the original Exorcist movie, but it's also sort of a reboot. It was directed by the same guy that did the last 3 Halloween movies, the 3 Halloween requels that were, different, differing successes within those movies. You had 1 really good movie and then 2 really movies. And what I mean by movies is pretty terrible. And this is supposed to be the first film of a brand new Exorcist trilogy, and please don't make me have to sit through 2 more of these, please.
Doesn't make any sense.
Make it stop!
So let me just start with, some of the things I liked about the movie, because there are, a couple pros, and I'll get to that, and then I will go into all the negative stuff, which I have some negative stuff to say about this one. First off, the pros, the 2 kids in this movie, I thought did a good job. I mean, some of the writing that they had was not the best that they had to work with. There are definitely some cringy moments, but I thought the kids were really, really good, and I thought a lot of the stuff they did, specifically in the 3rd act of this movie, was pretty fantastic, and it really set the vibe of what The Exorcist is supposed to be. I also do want to praise the 3rd act a little bit. I think the 3rd act is definitely sort of strong. It's not incredible, but it is definitely watchable and entertaining, and it actually gets to the Exorcist stuff that we wanted. It definitely isn't a slam dunk when it comes to hitting on all of its ideas. It definitely doesn't build the tension in the same way that the original film did, and it's definitely not perfect, but there was a lot of entertainment to be had in that final act, and it definitely did some cool visual stuff. It had some surprises, some cool music cues, and the 3rd act of this movie is pretty good. I also like the music, and it's The Exorcist, so of course the music's gonna be good. They have a, predetermined soundtrack from a movie that came out a dozen years ago, or more than a dozen years ago, so you know what? Yeah, the music's still good. So what did I not like about The Exorcist Believer? Oh man. This movie has to have one of the worst openings I think I've ever seen in a horror movie. And it's not that it's written poorly or it's just so boring. And I've been very kind to a lot of the horror movies that have come out this year that have been critically hated on. The Nun 2, the new Insidious movie, The Boogeyman. These are movies that did not do well with critics at all, but I gave pretty positive reviews at. And it's not that the movies are amazing, but those movies did something that The Exorcist fails to do. And at the very least, those movies I thought were not boring. They at least moved at a good pace and delivered some decent scares, and at the very least, if you're not going to have the greatest story ever, or a really, or a really ambitious plot or ambitious cinematography style, at the very, very least, just don't make the movie boring and include some scares. The first 30 minutes of this movie are incredibly boring. If you watch the 2-minute trailer for this movie, you get everything you need to know that the first 30 minutes of this movie tries to provide the audience with, and it is just, oh man, it is a slog to get through. And the 2nd act just does not get much better. It takes so long to get to what they wanted to get to in that 3rd act, to get to the Exorcist stuff, and none of the scares really work. I mean, the best scares in this movie are scares that are directly ripped out of other better movies. I mean, they tried recreating the classic Insidious scare moment, and I just shook my head. I don't know what they were doing with this. And I'm usually not very hard on movies, because I am trying to be a filmmaker, and I respect the art form, and I respect that you're not always going to get it right, and I respect a lot of the people that sometimes they put their heart and soul into something, and it's just not for me. But one of the reasons I'm being hard on this movie is because it is a big studio movie that is rebooting a big franchise, and there is absolutely no reason, in my opinion, to get this wrong and to do things that this movie does that are extremely lazy, and that's what annoys me when you have a big budget movie coming from a big studio on a big franchise and there is an ample amount of laziness. And what do I mean by that when I say lazy? Well, it comes from Ellen Bernstein's character. Ellen Bernstein is one of the greatest and most underrated actresses in the world, and she's obviously plays the mother from the original Exorcist, an absolute classic actress, and they were bringing her character back to be the legacy character in this requel, which every single requel does. They always gotta have the legacy character. And what they do with her character and how she's included in this plot is so... it's almost criminal. It's so bad and so scummy. And you might be asking, because I'm not going to spoil it, but you might be asking, what does she do in this plot? And here's the answer without really spoiling anything. She does absolutely nothing. She is in this movie for maybe 5 minutes of running time, and she contributes nothing to the plot. She is just here so she could be in the trailer. She contributed more to the trailer than she did to the plot of this movie. You can completely remove her character from this film and absolutely nothing changes. I'm sure they might have even thought about removing her. They might have thought about cutting out her scenes because they are so pointless and irrelevant towards the plot of this movie. She's only here to connect it to the original film so that when they released the trailer to market it to people, they were saying, oh, look, we're connecting it to the original movies and it's going to play a big role, and it didn't. It was such a cheap way to market the film and such a terrible, terrible decision and such a waste of Ellen Burstyn, who's so amazing. I mean, she is one of the greatest actresses that I think lives today, and there's so much they could have done with her and actually included her in the plot. Even the Halloween movies, which the director of this film just made, I mean, they are Jamie Lee Curtis's story. She is a vital part of all three films, and although they are a new story, they're very much still her story. This film is essentially a reboot. It's a brand new story, and they just included one character for a couple seconds, you know, like barely even minutes to sell the movie, and she didn't do anything else. And I'm sure maybe they have plans for her and some of the other legacy characters to be involved in sequels, because there are supposed to be 2 more, but what they did here, I just think is kind of disgraceful. Because there's no way any legitimate person working in Hollywood, working in that studio, working on this movie would have read the script and read what that character was doing in this film and didn't speak up and say, guys, we either gotta give her more or just completely take her out of the movie. There's no reason to have this character included the way that she was unless they were just trying to sell tickets with a trailer, which is what annoys me because all of these studios are doing this, and it's the biggest problem in Hollywood. The biggest problem in Hollywood are not, you know, small filmmakers and small studios every now and then making bad movies. That's okay, and I will never shit on the smaller movies. I will never shit. If A24 puts out a movie with a small, you know, freshman filmmaker and it's not great, I'm not gonna sit here and trash the movie on my YouTube channel. But one of the biggest problems in Hollywood right now is they keep bringing back these massive franchises with really, really big budgets and putting, you know, sometimes big filmmakers involved and just putting a lot of money in it, pouring a lot of effort into it, yet they always seem to come out feeling scummy and feeling kind of like how Martin Scorsese describes it, like an amusement park ride. Like it's just there for amusement, to sell some tickets, to make some money, and there's no actual, like, thought process that goes into telling an original and amazing story that will really impact an audience. You see it in the Star Wars sequels and everything that Disney's done with Star Wars up until recently with Ahsoka. You see it in the new Indiana Jones movie. You see it in a lot of the stuff that's come out, the Jurassic World stuff, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. You see it in all of that, and it just enrages me as someone who loves films, and I'm just seeing this, and I feel like it's like eroding and destroying Hollywood. We need to expect better from Hollywood. If you're going to make an Exorcist movie, it needs to be, like, they have the resources to make it better than this, and I think audiences need to start demanding better than this with their money. Because franchises can come back and be great. You can have a franchise that is a big moneymaker and a big name in the industry and do it right. I mean, look at Saw X that just came out. Nobody was expecting it to be good, and if it was terrible, nobody would have really cared, but oh my god, they still actually made a great movie that had a lot of love and care in it, and it didn't feel like a studio disaster that was made just to make money. So that's really where my problems come with The Exorcist Believer, and I hope if they do get to make the second and the third movie that they just, I don't know, man, just try not to make a movie that feels like it was just made for money. Don't market a legacy character in the trailers and really push her as being a big part of the movie only for her to be in 2 minutes of screen time. Don't bore the audience to death in the first 30 minutes of the movie. You know, don't wait till the third act to actually, you know, get to the Exorcist stuff. So yeah, I'm just kind of frustrated by this movie. I'm watching a lot of movies right now. I'm currently at the New York Film Festival. I've been watching movies all week before the festival, trying to catch up on some stuff that I missed when I was on vacation. So I'm just watching all of these movies, and maybe I'm just exhausted, but this one just, it really struck a nerve with me where I was just, I was kind of angry watching it. So because of all that, I'm gonna give The Exorcist Believer a 1.5 out of 5. I won't give it a 1 because, you know what, it's not atrocious, it's watchable. The third act is okay, but it cannot get a 2 because there are other movies I've given a 2 this year that I think are 10 times better than this. So I'm not gonna give it a 2. 1.5 out of 5. And I can't recommend seeing it, and it's not because I don't respect the people that made it, the director and the writers. You know, I'm sure they're all good people that put a lot of effort into it. I don't want you guys to see this one because I don't respect the studio that made this. And I do not believe that you guys should go and give them money to this and tell them, hey, make more of this shit. I think we as an audience need to stand up and tell Hollywood that no, we expect better than this for our big franchises. We expect stuff like Top Gun Maverick if you're going to do a requel, a rebirth of a new franchise. That's what we expect. We need more stuff like that, less stuff like The Exorcist Believer. So yeah, that's the video. Hope you guys liked it. Make sure to like this video and subscribe for more. Make sure to turn on notifications to see everything I'm posting this week and for every week following it. And I will see you guys in the next video.